this is going to be a tutorial on how to make naive faces, princes and princesses like these. I am in Carla Sondheim's online summer fairy tale course. I did that course 2 years ago and wasn't able to finish all the exercises. She's running it again. We could join again, so I am there now to finish the exercises I didn't do then. Yesterday was about designing your own prince and princess, and I had a hard time starting. I didn't really know what kind of character to choose. So I figured that I would do an exercise to loosen up the hands and, well, to just get going. What makes, I posted this online and some people asked me, how do you do that? And I decided to make a little tutorial about it. What makes it really interesting is that this is an exercise in skin tones. How do you mix skin tones? And also it's an exercise in how to make naive faces with very little detail but still give them some sort of expression. And it is an exercise in making up different kinds of crowns. You can look at Google images for reference, or you can simply, what I did, just make things and see what comes out of it. Right, what you need is watercolor paper. I'm going to use a small piece of watercolor paper to show you how it's done. But if you take a nice big sheet of watercolor paper, then it's really nice to have a collection of this. It looks really neat. You need watercolor. The brand I'm using here is White Knights, which is a really great brand. It's very good value for money, and I'll tell you what colors I'll be using. Of course, you need some water. You need gouache, and I have white gouache, and I have gold gouache, deep gold. You can also use the light gold, but since I'm working on a white sheet of paper, the deep gold is more profound. You need a couple of brushes. So I have a bigger brush. I even have this big brush, which is a size 8 petit gris. I have a size 6 selected filament. I have a size 4 cheap brand, and I have a size, I think, 1 or 2 Cotman. I don't know if I'm going to use them all, but these are the brushes that I'm going to be working with. I also have a mechanical pencil, and in this case it is 0.9 millimeters, so it's a thicker lead, and it's a softer lead. It's a B2. I'm using a softer lead because I'm going to work on top of the gouache, so working with a softer pencil will give more color. Oh, we're having a thunderstorm in the background. You need some kitchen towel. This is yesterday's size, so I'm just flipping it over. And you need a palette because we're going to mix colors. So now that we're done, going to talk about mixing colors. So this is the end result. If I were you, I would work on a big sheet. I am showing you on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to do about 6 faces. Okay, so first I'm going to start with a white skin. I'm going to be needing the white gouache as well. White skin, what I like to use for a white skin tone, and then you will see it's not white at all, is Madder Lake. And Madder Lake is a very strong color, so you don't need too much of that. And I'm diluting it. And you can choose to use ochre, which has a pretty strong yellowing force, or you can use, for instance, the raw sienna. But raw sienna doesn't have the same power to color in a mix to make a yellowish color. Then I'm going to add some white gouache. And as you will see, it will make my paint opaque. I don't necessarily mean to make it opaque, but I meant to get close to a peachy, salmon-like skin tone. Okay, so I used a big brush for mixing because it keeps more water. Now I'm going to use the number 6. Pick up some paint, and I'm going to paint sort of a walnut size face, not too high up because I want to paint a crown. It doesn't really matter what shape you paint. It doesn't even have to be round or oval. Okay, so that's it. First face done. Then I'm going to add a little bit of Madder Lake. I'm going to make a little bit more red, and I'm going to add some English red to get a little more of an Indian color skin. And the things that I'm doing now is testing. You know, this is not science. This is just I'm saying out loud the things that I do, but it's not like this is the way it should be done. I'm not happy with the color, so what I do is I pick up some English red and I apply it directly onto paper with a little bit of water, and I mix it just like that. It's not the color I wanted, but it's a different color, so it's good. Then I'm going to take more ochre, a lot more ochre, and some raw sienna. And as you see, raw sienna doesn't give off as much yellowing power as the ochre does. This was ochre. I added a little bit of water to my brush to make the colors flow a little bit better, because I feel the paint is a little thick. Now I'm going to add Mars Brown. Moving on to darker skin tones now. So Mars Brown, not too much. And as you see, my face isn't round or oval. And then I'm going to add burnt umber, quite a bit, because now I'm going to really go for the dark tones. Oops, burnt umber. There was a little drop of paint there, and I just added it. And when you add water to the paper directly like I did, make sure to get your brush over the entirety of the face again, otherwise you will get stained. And now I'm going to add sepia, because I want to have a really, really dark skin tone. So I'm going to add sepia. And sepia is not the same color in every brand. You have to try that out. Okay, right, they all look a bit different. This will dry very quickly, by the way. So while it does, it's time to think about the details. I'm going to zoom in now, because now you've seen the mixing. I'm going to zoom in because I want to show you exactly what I do. Okay, I'm going to take my I'm going to add detail, and the first detail I'm adding is eyes and a nose. And I do that in a very, very simple way. I simply place 2 white dots for the eyes, and we're going to be putting pupils in that with pencil later, and the nose. And this is not a detailed way of working. What I first do is I dilute the gouache a little bit, not too much, because when you dilute it too much you won't see it on the paint. So it should still be a little thick, it shouldn't be watery, but almost like Tipp-Ex. Okay, so when you have it, put some white onto your... I'm going to zoom in even further now because I'm going to work in detail. I hope my camera takes this well. You'll be able to see it better and better as the darkness of the skin tone progresses. So the first eye and the second eye, just white dots. And then, because this face is looking at me completely from the front, I'm going to do some sort of triangular shape for the nose. So that's the nose. That's all the detail I need for now. So I do the same for every face. This face is looking up to the left. So now the nose is about there. And again, this is not science, this is just testing. So you just have to try and see what works for you. You can't go wrong with this, actually. And you will see when it's finished, you will see what faces you like best. And I don't know yet whether they are princes or princesses. I'm just going ahead with it. This is a weird shaped face. So what can we do? Yeah, I'm going to paint it like this. This is a really weird prince or princess. Toppled over. Oh, sorry. You didn't see that. And seeing it from the front, so making a little triangular shape for the nose. This one has an alien-like face. I'm gonna do and we're going to put eyes in. If you make a lot of room for the eyes, you leave a lot of space between them, then it gives a sweet expression. You put the eyes really close, the expression becomes less sweet. Okay, now what else do we have? We have cheeks and a mouth. So what I do is I'll zoom out again so you can see what I'm mixing. I take some Madder Lake again. And white gouache, And I'm gonna pick up a little bit of ochre. A little bit more, because I don't want a really pink. I'm going to make the blushes. I'm going to make the cheeks blush. Adding a little bit of water. Don't want this to be as opaque. Zooming back in. And oops. Right, this is what didn't happen to me yesterday because I did so many faces, but now this is happening. The eyes are still wet. So, silly me. However, so I have to be careful not to put my hand on top of a face again. This one's got really big blushes. So this is a way you can create blush. It's quite in your face and not dark enough for darker skin tones, so if you're working on darker skin tones, you can keep adding red to the color to make it better. But what I'm going to do is what I did yesterday. I have a pencil. This is a very thin scarlet red by Prismacolor, and I'm simply going to draw in. I'll wait because it's not dry enough yet. So until the end of the video. So what we do next then is I take some scarlet red. I'll zoom out and show you. I take some scarlet red and some of the paint I just made and mix the two together. And this is going to be the color of the mouth that I'm going to be using. And the mouth is quite simple. A very thin line, as thin as you can. That's the mouth. I'll zoom in. The mouth, and then I'm going to add a very thin line underneath, because the upper lip, the lower lip is usually, there is light on the lower lip, so usually it's prettier when you leave that very light. You can paint real upper lip or just leave it as a little line. So next I need a little more paint. And when the paint is dry, I'm going to emphasize the lips a little bit, and I'll show you later how. Right, now the skin tones are getting darker. So I need more red. And the last one, it's really dark, so I hope I'll see my lines. When you don't see the lines really well, you can mix in some white gouache and then a lot of red, and then the gouache will cover better. I'll show you how. So, oh, I have to zoom out. Hold on. No, other way. Toying with the camera. So first you mix in some white gouache so that your paint becomes pink, and then you mix in quite a bit of red watercolor paint, and then you will see it will get bright again. And because the gouache is in it now, it will cover much better than when you just use the watercolor. So, zooming back in to show you. See? So, okay. We're going to wait for this to dry because we are almost there. Okay. So the next step is the gold. I'm using gouache by Talent. Again, we're going to mix this into a nice consistency, and it must be quite thick because it should cover, but I don't want to put it on the paper like paste. So I mix a little bit of water into it. I do it in a cap. When I don't need too much, I always mix this paint in the cap. It's the easiest. And then what you do is just use your imagination for the crowns. So and I'm just doing something, you know, it's not like I don't have an example here. And the reason I'm using gouache is that it covers nicely over the head, you see? First crown done. Can you see the metallic shine? Good. Next, going to give this one a very little crown. It's nice to play with dimensions. You can add a really big crown to a really small face and see how that works. And vice versa. This is going to become a prince, a bold prince or a king. Because we can actually see his bald head. Okay. Next in the row. Oh, oops. Sorry. Next in the row is another small crown. And I'm going to give this one curves and swirls. And we're going to add a hat-like crown. And I'll just, you know, these are all pretty basic shapes. No details, just but I try to elaborate on it as I go. So I am painting a hat, but as I go I think, well, I might add a couple of nice crowny stuff. So I'm adding in some filigree. I really like crowns that have filigree in them. I love this one. Should I ever become queen, then I want to have a crown like that. And let's make a floral crown for this one. Or floral. Yes, let's make it floral. I'm drawing a heart shape on her front, which immediately makes her a girl, I think. Stereotype. Whoopsie daisies. Okay. And I'm adding another heart. Oh, sorry. Just slid off the camera again. And another heart. Okay. So yesterday I did something like this as well, and you can elaborate on this even further by saying, well, you know, sometimes in tiaras you see this massive ornamentation, I'm going to make this a little bit longer, because when I do, I ran out of paint. I almost need to make new paint. You can keep going on adding to the crowns. I need an even bigger heart, so by just making bigger until I think, okay, now it's good. Wow. This is also a nice crown to have. I mean, okay. So, the painting is done. And if you look at my other faces, we are going to give them eyes, and we're going to define the lips just a little bit. Very simply. Oh, and before I forget, we're going to give them some blush. So if you don't want to have these really round, harsh lines, you can also use color pencil. So this is the scarlet color that I have. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just try and find a cheek. With my hands in the paint again. So find some cheek, and then I bring in the color pencil. Again, no rocket science, just trying what I It's a little softer than when you use paint. Or you can use the paint more thinly, of course. Okay, so blush is on. So now the eyes. What I'm going to do is, just like on this sheet of paper, I'm going to make them interact. So they're all looking at one another. So, for instance, this one is looking at her neighbor. And like I said, I want to emphasize the lips just a little bit by drawing a thin line under the upper lip. It helps define them a little better. And this one is going to look at the one below her. And that one is looking at the one in the middle. And this one is smitten with the one above him or her. I'm gonna need a little bit of white to add to the eye here. Okay, I'm done. But if you do it, you will of course make a sheet as big as this, won't you? Thank you for watching and enjoy.